Hey guys, happy Red Friday. It's Eric. Yes, I look a little different today. I wish I had a red sling to put my arm in, but I don't. I spoke with one of you who has watched these videos for months and is working on getting a new home, and we had talked a little bit about my arm, and you had told me, well, I sure hope you're wearing a red sling on Friday. I could not find one. Mountain biking accident, went right over the handlebars. More than enough information for most of you guys. That said, let's get right into it today. Today we're going to talk about, listen, probably one of the most misunderstood and underutilized things in the entire mortgage industry. And that's this right here, the APR, okay? Now, I was thinking as I was preparing for today, and I get my topic, earlier in the week, man, I better go because APR is so complex. I better go and do all this research. And I was like, wait a second. I've been doing mortgages myself for almost 17, 18, actually it's been almost 20 years. Started just in around 2000. And if I can't explain APR in a way that people can understand it, then you know what, no one's going to understand it. And here's the reality. As you try to get technical with APR, I don't care if you've been in the industry as long as I have, or you're a bookworm and you study it, nobody explains it the same way. And frankly, when you read explanations for it online, you just confuse yourself more than hopefully you're not going to be confused when I'm done, I hope. So first of all, APR stands for annual percentage, can't spell it today, percentage rate. Man, I'm struggling. It's because I got a hurt arm. Annual percentage rate, that's where you get your APR. Okay, so here's the best way to explain it. There's two things to understand. Number one, there's your note rate, also referred to as your interest rate. So for example, people ask all the time, what are interest rates today? Well, if you're familiar with our videos, we don't ever quote interest rates online. We don't put any of those rate tables up like a lot of our competitors do, or like you might see at Zillow or Bankrate, because there's all sorts of assumptions. And those are teaser rates. And frankly, in order to give somebody an interest rate, there's a lot of things you need to know about that person. We would rather speak to you. But we remind you, as our name says, low VA rates, we're going to have some of, if not the lowest rates out there. We back that up with our APR guarantee, which I'll talk about. So let's just say, for hypothetically speaking, the interest rate today were 4.0. That means if you were to go to a mortgage calculator and you were to amortize or calculate a payment at 4%, let's say for 30 years, all of your payments would be based off of this 4%. We're just gonna make this easy. I'm gonna put $400, okay? At 4%, your payment's $400. This is your interest rate. This is your note rate. This is the interest rate you're gonna lock in when you're shopping and you're talking to loan officers. This is the rate they're gonna be quoting you, and that is your note rate. That is not your APR 95% of the time. What your APR does, and here comes my definition, your APR, right, it's when you take the note rate and then you also take all of the closing costs that may be associated with that rate, you add those into the cost of getting the loan, you run a calculation. It's a very complex calculation that we're not going to do today, and that's the part that confuses people. And your APR is almost always, like I said, 95% of the time, almost always, your APR may be higher than your interest rate. Why? Because there's closing costs. The whole point of the APR is to allow you to go around to different banks and different lenders and shop. Not enough veterans do this. Veterans, please, you need to shop. We train you to shop. We teach you to shop. We entice you to shop because we know if you do, you will come back to us because of our lowest APR guarantee. Let me rephrase that. Our low APR guarantee. There are some auditors and regulators out there that don't like us to use the word lowest. We're not always the lowest. And when we're not, we give you $250. But we want you to prove us wrong. We know we can get you the lowest APR. So for example, you can go onto our YouTube channel. That's probably where you are right now if you're watching this in the past. And you can go search APR. You can go search Shop for Loan, and you'll find all sorts of information on this. You can also go search closing costs. Let's just say a 4% loan is going to have a 1% origination fee. Okay, I'll put origination fee. Let's say there's a $500, sorry, it's hard with one arm, appraisal fee. And then let's just say there's, $1,000 in other fees. Okay? So you've got $1,500, maybe you got $2,000 in closing costs. Those closing costs are what push your note rate into an APR of 4.371. So I'm going to try to summarize that and then finish up here in a second. The APR is kind of like an index or an example of the true cost of borrowing money. Yes, this is the interest rate you're paying. When you try to deduct interest from your taxes at the end of the year, it's going to be based off of 4%, not going to be based off of your APR. Your payments are calculated off of 4%. This is just something for you to look at when you go to lender A, B, and C. Lender A might have a 4.5 APR, lender B might be at 4.42 APR, and lender C might be at 5% APR. Yet they all could have a 4% interest rate. How in the world does that happen? I've got 3 different APRs, but the same interest rate with all 3 lenders. It's because the closing costs are going to be higher on this guy that's at 5%. So if you're trying to figure out where to go, you would pick low VA rates or lender B, because you're getting the same rate with everybody, but you're getting a lower APR with us. Okay? I hope that helps. I'm going to ask now for questions. If you have specific questions about APR, I'm going to finish up here in just a minute. I would love to try to answer those questions because it's useful for everybody else that's watching the video. Everything you need to know. What else do you need to know? I think I told you everything. I don't want to just ramble the ramble. It's Friday. I hope you're wearing red. Do we have any questions? No questions. Okay, so APR and interest rate are 2 different things. You need to understand this when you're shopping for a new home, when you're trying to refinance. And guess what? With all of this stuff that's going on right now in the news about China and the president and these trade tariffs and all this stuff, it's caused interest rates to be really, really good, okay? They're lower than they have been. Now is a great time to start looking at buying that home you've been waiting to buy or taking advantage of a refinance. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.